This is the new Opel or Vauxhall Insignia, which has been designed and built in Europe to take on the likes of the Ford Mondeo, Volkswagen Passat and Skoda Superb. And this is the new Holden Commodore, which Australian engineers have actually been involved in the development of from the word go. But it's no longer built here, available in rear-wheel drive, available with a V8 or with a sedan body. Despite missing these historical hallmarks, the story actually runs a lot deeper than Holden's decision to stop producing cars in Australia. If you talk to the right people at Holden, they'll admit that the new Commodore was always going to be front-wheel drive and based on a global model. They were even going to build it here, but only half of that plan was possible after the decision was made to pull the pin on Australian manufacturing. So here we are, with a new Commodore that's different to any before it. But is it still worthy of the badge? Under the skin, the new Commodore is all new, and rather than a sedan, it's moved to a sleek 5-door hatch design, along with a sport wagon and off-road flavoured tourer. No, there's no Ute or Caprice, and there never will be. A 4-cylinder turbo is now the entry engine, and you can still get a V6 further up the range, but for the first time, you can get a diesel. The 4-cylinder models are front-wheel drive, while the V6s are all-wheel drive with a clever dual-clutch rear diff. This range of choice extends even further with a total of 6 trim levels to choose from, starting with the LT, then the RS, then there's RSV, Calais, Calais V, and then at the top of the range as a new performance flagship is the VXR. Features-wise, there's a whole bunch of Commodore firsts across the lineup, but arguably the most important is auto emergency braking, which is fitted standard across every single model. It is smaller than the VF it replaces, but it's actually bigger than the VT generation before it, and compares well in most cabin dimensions other than outright width. So it'll still seat 2 adults in the back, no worries, but 3 will be more of a squeeze. The hatch's boot space is only slightly down on before, but the 5-door design is so much more useful in the real world, and it brings a split fold for the first time in a non-wagon Commodore. The sport wagon has lost around 100 litres though, but is still a very useful space. One of the biggest surprises with the new Commodore is just how much involvement the local engineers have had, and quite frankly, they were key in getting the V6 added to the range. They've covered more than 200,000 kilometres in testing on Australian roads and at the Lang Lang Proving Ground we're at today. This has been to fine-tune the drivetrain calibrations, the steering, suspension, and even details like the radio reception to suit our tastes and unique demands. I've driven almost all of them over the past couple of days, aside from the base LT and the diesel engine, but among the rest, there's a genuine quality to the way they handle rough Australian roads. The Turbo 4 is a surprisingly capable and refined package, and would actually be my pick if I were in the market. I think it's actually a bit of a shame you can't get the off-road flavoured tourer with the petrol 4, but it still does a pretty good job with the V6. The only other one I'd look out for would be the Calais V, which might be just a bit too sharp in its ride for some luxury buyers. The top-spec VXR is a completely different personality to the SSs of the past. It's nowhere near as fast, but it's a more grown-up package overall that's easier to get the best out of. The V6 in the VXR does make a pretty sweet noise, even if half of it's coming through the speakers, but you can judge for yourself if it's enough to replace the old V8. So will the new Commodore become Australia's favourite car? I strongly doubt it, but it's not the car's fault. Even if it were a rear-wheel drive V8 sedan that was built in Australia, Australian buying habits have just moved on. Taken as an all-new entry in Holden's revitalised lineup though, the new Commodore ticks all big boxes for a mid to large passenger vehicle these days. It may not be as exciting as a 6.2 litre Redline in Ute, wagon or sedan, but it's actually a far better car overall, and you should really give it a drive before dismissing it.